Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, share, like, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. Our lecture today is titled The Role of Human Rights and Rule of Law in the Political Development of Nigeria. The role of human rights and rule of law in the political development of Nigeria. Now, the concept of human rights, rule of law, and political development are so interrelated that one is tempted to liken them, liken their relationship, to that of Siamese twins. They are intricately linked that sometimes one wonders where one stops and the other begins. Now, let us look at the concept of human rights, rule of law, and political development separately. Now, what is the concept of human rights? Now, human rights are the inalienable or inviolable rights of citizens of a country. Now, according to Basic in 1992, human rights are rights that are legally recognized and protected, to secure for each individual, and to the, that is to the fullest and freest development of personality, spirituality, and moral independence. You see, this is contained in Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now, rule of law, on the other hand, that is the concept of rule of law, can be defined according to Professor A.V. Dicey as the supremacy of the law as opposed to arbitrary power of government or individuals. Now, the principles of the rule of law are absolute. What are the principles of the rule of law? Now, the principles of rule of law are absolute supremacy of the law. Absolute supremacy of the law. Of course, the law, the supremacy of the law is absolute. Now, every other law that actually comes behind the Constitution is actually, inferior to the Constitution of the land. The Constitution is the ground norm. The Constitution is supreme. The Constitution is actually above all institutions and all persons within the Nigerian context. So, the number one principle of rule of law is absolute supremacy of the law. That is number one. Number two, absolute equality before the law. Now, according to the principle of the rule of law, everybody is equal before the law. There is no favoritism when you are actually talking about the rule of law. So everybody is equal before the law. There is no rich man, there is no poor man before the law. Now, whatever anybody does, if the person has actually committed a crime, it is expected that according to the principle of equality, absolute equality before the law, that everybody should be tried according to the law. And if the person is actually found wanting, the person should face the music irrespective of the personality of the individual. That is number two. Number three, the rights to be heard. The right to be heard and impartiality of the courts, and freedom from bias. The right to be heard. Now, what is the right to be heard? The right to be heard is that even if you do not understand the language that is being spoken in a particular place, you have the right, to an interpreter. An interpreter should actually be employed to interpret the law, to interpret the process, the court process to you, so that you are given the right of fair hearing, and then impartiality of the courts and freedom from bias. The court should be impartial. The court should not actually dance to the tune of the elites alone. But in the Nigerian context, this principle of impartiality of the court and freedom from bias is not actually most times adhered to, because of the fact that it is because in Nigeria the elites always have their way. Okay, so that is actually another principle. Another principle of the rule of law is personal liberty of the citizens. Now, individual citizens actually have the rights to be free. Liberty simply means freedom. So freedom, of the citizens are actually guaranteed by the Constitution. Okay, so, and the last one is independence of the judiciary. Independence of the judiciary. The judiciary is expected to be independent of the other arms of government, in which case they are not supposed to be tied to the apron strings of the executive, neither are they supposed to be according to the whims and caprices of the legislature. So the judiciary is expected to be independent. Okay, so now according to Lord Acton, okay, the rule of law is needed because power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now the rule of law checks the arbitrariness of those in authority. Now let us look at the concept of political development. Now, according to Almond and Powell, political development is anchored on structural differentiation and cultural secularization. Okay, while structural differentiation is the process whereby roles change and become specialized or more autonomous, and it is also on empirical and analytical action. Cultural secularization, on the other hand, talks about types of culture and orientation of culture. According to Lucien Pai, sees political development as when a system develops capacity and equality. Now, comprehensively, political development entails the remarkable change in the political structure and political culture, okay, that occur in the process of struggling for power among political actors and political parties within the political system. Now, let us look at the rule of human rights and rule of law in the political development of Nigeria. The rule of human rights and rule of law, the political development of Nigeria. Number one rule of human rights and rule of law, the political development of Nigeria, is that they guarantee good governance. Now, rule of law, okay, and human rights, the protection of human rights, and of course, rule of law actually guarantee good governance. The point being made here is that when the government is actually in check, when the constitution or constitutionalism is actually in place in Nigeria, okay, now the rule of law is actually adhered to. And because the rule of law is adhered to, people in government will not actually rule according to their whims and caprices. So to that extent, it guarantees good governance. That is number one. Number two, human rights and rule of law actually guarantee the consolidation of democracy. Now, one of the major mantras of democracy is rule of protection of fundamental human rights and, of course, adherence to rule of law. Now, where there is no rule of law, the society is in anarchy. The society is in authoritarianism. The society is actually in dictatorship. So, democracy, rule of law, and human rights are actually, are intricately intertwined. Okay, the nexus is actually very, very strong, because for you to actually have democracy, you must have the protection of fundamental human rights and, of course, rule of law. Okay, number three is promotion of peace, unity, and cohesion. A country that guarantees human rights and rule of law will always have, peace, unity, and cohesion among the citizenry. Okay, number four is that it allows for a robust jurisprudence. Okay, the judicial process, the judicial system, the justice system within the society is actually going to be robust, because there is protection of fundamental human rights of the people and the rule of law is actually, on top gear. So to that extent, rule of law, fundamental human rights are actually very good, are actually there for the political development of the country. Number five is that it leads to the promotion of equality and equitable distribution of wealth. Promotion of equality and equitable distribution of wealth. Okay, now the protection of fundamental human rights of the people and, of course, adherence to rule of law actually leads to the promotion of equality and equitable distribution of wealth. Number six, discouragement of military interregnum. Discouragement of military interregnum. Okay, now rule of law, adherence to fundamental human rights of the people and rule of law actually helps the military to stay clear of the democratic or of governance. Okay, then number seven, it allows for free press. Okay, the media will actually be free to operate, without being cowed or without being pocketed. Okay, so thank you very much.